All right. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. And hello, fellow listeners, to this lovely episode where we discuss alternatives to Patreon. I am Kelsey. I'm a comic artist, and I am joined by my good comics buddy, Jade. Say hello, Jade, and tell the internet who you are.
Hello, I'm Jade. I am the author of a lot of furry comics, most famously Ask the Werewolves and Fox Me Gently. And probably pretty well known if you go around the furry scene at all. That's me. Hi, it's me. I'm the weird one.
And I am weird one or a weird one?
I'm not the weirdest one, but I'm definitely one of the weird ones.
Okay.
And I am joining Kelsey because as of today, as of about 6 hours ago, I quit using Patreon for good.
Woo!
And we're here to talk about why.
Yes, because I have
and what you can do about it.
Yeah, I have also left Patreon. Suck it, haters. Yeah. But let's actually start with the introductions of how it is that we got to Patreon in the first place before we start talking about why we left.
Okay. Would you like to go first?
Sure. I joined Patreon not right when it launched, but right around 2014, because I had just run a Kickstarter for one of my webcomics, Seeing Him. And after the Kickstarter funding ran out, I took a look at other crowdfunding platforms to be like, what can help support me and the writer at the same time while we're working on this project? Patreon was one of the options I was looking at. I was actually looking at a different platform called Subbable, which existed at the time. It does not exist anymore because Patreon bought Subbable out. But Subbable was interesting because I'm going to tangent aside for a second just to talk about Subbable. Mm-hmm. It was interesting in that it allowed you to kind of bank the rewards that you pledged. So I'll use this as an example because this was something I did when I had a membership just as a patron on Subbable. Mm-hmm. I was supporting Crash Course at the time, and I really, really wanted a poster of the periodic table of the elements signed by Hank Green, but I didn't have $40 right offhand. But what I did have was the ability to pledge $10 a month for 4 months until I was able to cash it out and get that reward. So that is what I chose to do. And I have not seen other payment platforms replicate this model, which is unfortunate because it's really unique as far as crowdfunding models go.
Yeah.
I wish more people would give this a try, but I have not seen it replicated yet.
Maybe it didn't work out with accepted models. Maybe it wasn't as efficient as the others. I don't know.
Maybe. If Hank Green would love to talk to me about it, I would love to talk with him about it because...
Yeah, same.
Because it was a project that he and John both worked on. It was something that either they started or they were working with the people who started it up. I don't remember which. It's been almost 10 years. So I do not know. So how about you? When did you join and why?
I started Patreon in 2015, late 2015, and it was November of 2015 toward the end. Yeah. Didn't really get ahead of steam until 2016 because I had just quit my job at Disneyland and wanted to make a go of doing art professionally, for my bread and butter. And it turned out that doing furry commissions for the internet paid better than Disneyland did, by a factor of about 3. So that was an easy choice. Yeah.
There you go. Pro tip for all of you aspiring creatives out there.
Uh-huh.
Wow. I forgot that you worked at Disneyland for a hot second.
Yeah, I did for a while. And also doing art for the internet was way more fulfilling than parking cars and taking toll booth money.
Oh my God. Yeah. I remember being
haven't really turned back from that decision.
Yeah. I remember being a ticket checker at a country music festival. First of all, hated country. Second of all, it was just a miserable experience being the ticket checker there because picture the sloppiest drunk and then multiply that by the number of attendees who would go to a country music festival. That was the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hated it, but I did it because I needed the money at the time.
Yeah. And when it stuck, it didn't make enough money for me at first to make rent in California, which, I mean, nothing does.
Yeah.
But like it did pay my livelihood for about 7 years.
That's actually
give or take a lot of rockiness in my own life. But no, I actually did make a pretty good living on Patreon for a while.
Yeah, like sounds like it. It sounds like you're one of the more like top end tier ones. I never broke. I think the highest I ever got in a month on Patreon, my peak was in 2018, I want to say it was. And I was getting close to, but not exactly 250 a month. But that is apparently still more than most people who are creatives seeking funding on Patreon.
Right. And for me, it was like also, I think I also peaked around 2018. I was making about 1,800 at my peak, which sounds really impressive, but we have to keep in mind that most creators on Patreon don't break 3 digits, let alone 4. And 2, even $1,800 a month is not a living wage in any state in the US.
Correct. It's not even really a living wage in Ohio. Like I did the math.
No, it's not.
Yeah. And if it's not a living wage in Ohio, it's not a living wage anywhere. It's
also much meaner on your taxes because self-employment income is taxed quite heavily compared to like W-2, W-4 income.
Oh yeah.
But that's a whole nother topic for another day.
Yeah, if we could do an entire freaking video just about self-employment taxes and all of that entails.
Right. But I think that put me in like the top half percentile, like the top 0.5% of Patreon earners. Yeah. And like it's still pennies compared to like the really high number of people who make like 20,000, 30,000 on like animation and video and like other popular stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say like probably the popular YouTubers, like insert
popular YouTubers, popular like animators and game devs make way more money than that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But it is like wild that you made it to that high enough percentile that you got invited to like basically back-end discussion groups.
Yeah, I got invited to the Patreon community forum at one point, which they rolled out first for the high rollers, like everybody above 4 digits. Got to see the community forum, and I don't remember if they ever opened it to the public. I didn't use the community forum very much because it was really just a place where those creators would interface with an official Patreon representative, like just a suit, whoever they assigned to handle the community forum that month.
Right.
And it was supposed to be a place where Patreon could hear directly from their highest earners and learn what features and adjustments they wanted. But practically what it turned into was a place where creators would bitch and moan about all the things that the platform wasn't doing for them. Yep. And then they would be ignored because the platform didn't intend to do those things for them.
Yep. Yeah, that was a good chunk of why I left. I actually left the platform, joined again to test a particular subscription model that I wanted to try, and then left it a second time.
What was that second subscription model you had?
The second subscription model was a kind of a beta test run for my current model, which is something that I built myself using Stripe as a payment processor.
All right, you told me about this.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it before recording, but for folks who don't know, I got really fed up with Patreon. And at one point, Ko-fi scared the crap out of me. And we'll get to that in a minute. But both platforms were getting to a point where I wanted to seek out a third alternative. And after doing some research, I decided that the best way for me to do it was to build it from scratch using Stripe. And look, it sounds complicated and it sounds like you need to know like JavaScript or C+ or anything like that. You technically don't. Stripe, if you go into Stripe, I could probably do a walkthrough about this in a separate video, but you can go in there and you can be like, make a new product. And it usually asks you like, is this product a subscription or is it a one-time purchase? And I'm like, oh, now that I know that I can do this. So I just built like 3 subscription tiers. Anyway,
merchandising. We love it.
Merchandising. That's how we make a living with art. Yeah. I mean, there's other ways too, but merchandising is a big chunk of it. But yeah, I used Stripe to basically build out my tiers. I did a test run on Patreon just to see if this like material subscription model would work. And turns out it would. But I didn't want to continue it on Patreon because Patreon, A, was taking a lot in fees from me. And B, the platform itself had no interest in taking creator feedback into consideration to improve on the platform. And also, right around the time that I was leaving, Patreon was in a little bit of a public relations snafu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember bringing this up with you, and you were at first like, oh, I didn't know this was happening. But long story short, it came out online that Patreon laid off their security team.
Yes.
And that makes me hella nervous because a good solid 1/3 of my reader base and fan base is transgender. Mm-hmm. I mean, I take user privacy very seriously regardless, but I especially take it seriously in regards to anybody who flies the rainbow flag, because holy shit, is it so easy to just find that information online. So being able to take the privacy of others seriously is something I try to keep top of mind. And when you lay off an entire security team, that puts security things like names and methods of payments and addresses, and makes it so much easier to have that stuff be breached.
Yeah, and we'll get to this in a second, but one reason Patreon did that was because their security team was 5 people or so.
Oh, that's even more terrifying.
Yeah, and what they have done instead is outsource it to another company, which brings us to today's topic.
Yes, actually, let's talk a little about why it is that you left Patreon, because this segues really nicely into a point that you brought up when you made your Patreon exit announcement.
Okay, so I first got the email about this, I think 4 months ago. Yeah, winter of last year, and I'll try to just cut the high points. So Patreon, as of now, has been pressured by MasterCard to unroll new requirements for adult content creators that use their site. Mm-hmm. The data is being collected by a third-party company called Jumio, which is an internet security company, like well-established, largely trusted. Yeah. The new terms they have set out require that all adult content creators have to submit a government ID with a legal name and a face. And they also want facial recognition data. So for the moment, this is an opt-in policy, but in time it's going to be mandatory, and it will be impossible for adult content creators to continue using the platform if they don't give this information. Eventually Patreon will insist that you submit this data, and if you do not, after X number of months, they will suspend your account and prevent you from taking payments unless you either A, purge all the adult content from your page, or stop producing adult content entirely.
Ugh. Just the requirement of submitting your image for facial recognition is already setting off alarm bells in my head, because everybody knows that facial recognition does not work as intended.
No, it has historically been used by police agencies to surveil and persecute marginalized people. In other words, it's treating you as if you are already a suspect of a crime. Mm-hmm. You need to, submit your fingerprints if you want to use this service. This makes it more strict to make porn on Patreon than to buy a handgun in some places.
Yeah, and that's a problem. And especially because they're not requiring this of the patrons.
Yeah, that's another complication that I was about to talk about. So if it were just a photo ID, I might not have these fears, but only creators are required to submit the info. Patrons can just click a box saying, yes, they are 18 years and older, even if they aren't, and just see the content anyway. So if the goal is to prevent underage users from seeing the content, this isn't going to do anything.
Nope.
But I suspect that is because that's such an obvious workaround, I can only suspect that that's not actually the point of this policy. I suspect that the point of this policy is to take that data and monetize it.
More than likely, considering some of the things that Patreon has done in the past and the way that they cater so much to venture capitalists.
Right. Repeatedly, Patreon has shown that they care more about venture capital and raising their profit margin than they care about the user experience, which I just sort of put up with for the past 7 years, watching them like have security breaches and make sudden unannounced changes to their billing policy and unrolling annual billing without telling people how it worked.
Yeah. Security breaches. That sounds like something that would definitely happen when your security
they had a fairly large security breach, and I think 2015, 16, they're like right around when I joined. Famously, my info ended up on amipwned.com, so I had to change a lot of things.
I am so sorry.
It's fine. But there is, if you're worried about third-party data management, there's a small detail that Jumio, this third-party data management company, is owned by private equity. So if you've paid any attention to the economy in the last decade or so, you know that private equity has a favorite technique of the leveraged buyout, where they force a company into bankruptcy and sell it off for money.
Oh, that's shady. So
we're only one buyout away from this data ending up in the hands of God knows whoever pays the most for it, I guess. So when Patreon says they will never publicly share or sell your personal information, that's because they don't handle your personal information. Jumio does. So their hands are clean. There are so many caveats to this idea that I just can't even humor it. So
that's so
I am no longer using the platform to make my money.
That totally fair. That is absolutely fair. Yeah. And that's terrifying to think about. Yeah. So valid reason to leave.
And to be honest, like if anybody out there has followed my career arc for the past couple of years, I had to close my LLC at the end of last year. So I'd already kind of reduced my Patreon to a tip jar because I just couldn't fulfill the things I was promising. And like my merchandising had stopped because I have also been banned from Stripe for the same thing. Also got suspended from PayPal for the same thing under that company name. And I'm not going to contest those. Like I was creating adult content. Adult content is against their terms.
Yeah.
It was within their rights to do that. But now I'm sure that someone out there is thinking, wait a minute, I have seen furry and adult artists take their money for commissions on PayPal or through Stripe before, and they're still in business. That's true. There's a certain thing that just sort of happens as, like, I guess you'd call it an open secret, where adult content does get managed and traded through those platforms. It's just against the rules. So you may often hear somebody saying, hey, only use the PayPal invoice system. Don't include hot words like porn or smut or adult in your invoices, because robots will trawl that data and set off alarm bells if they see it.
Yep.
So you can, in the most literal sense, you can conduct adult work through Patreon and PayPal and Stripe, but you can't be noticed doing it. And if you are, the hammer will come down, which is what happened to me.
This is a good chunk of why I haven't gotten into, because I do have some ideas for like 18 plus comics that I would love to work on, but
the entire economy is hostile to it now.
Yes, that's the problem.
Yeah. Right. The entire credit card economy does not like adult work for a variety of reasons. It's like I posted about this once, but I guess I'll just repeat what I said. Is it a crime to make pornographic material in the United States of America? No. But also in a very real way, yes.
Yeah.
It is perfectly legal. You will also just be hounded out if you try it in pretty much every functional way.
Yeah. Puritans! I shake my fist angrily.
I mean, that's an oversimplification, but yes, there's a lot of that.
Yeah. I know it can get significantly more complicated, but that's a discussion for another day.
That's another day. That's a whole can of worms.
Yeah. But no, we're
a can of naughty wriggly worms. Sorry. That's my one joke for today.
Oh, just take the topic of worms and turn it into like vor.
That costs money. We're not talking about that for free.
I mean, obligatory Dragon Ball Z reference. I mean, if you just talk with perfect cell or imperfect cell for a second.
This is the grossest thing.
This is either vor or bestiality, and I'm only into one of those. Okay.
Oh, we got off track there.
Yeah, we did. It's cool.
Okay.
It's to be expected.
The long and short is that I have switched over from Patreon to Ko-fi, or Ko-fi, however you say it, and Kamish.io.
Yeah, technically it's Ko-fi. Itch.io is one that I've been eyeballing for a while, actually.
No, not itch.io, Kamish.io.
Oh,
because Itch also only took Stripe and PayPal, and I was not able to take those, so I had to turn all of my Itch products completely free to download. You can't even tip me for them anymore. I literally can't take your money through that platform.
Damn, man, I am sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm making it work.
I mean, I'm glad that you're making Ko-fi work for you, but I definitely had a scare with Ko-fi right around August. Actually.
Yes, you did.
August of 2022. We talked about this before recording, but yes. The thing is, Ko-fi does allow you to mark your page as not safe for work, which is what I did just to cover my bases, especially since my webcomic, The Legend of Jamie Roberts, has a lot of like Barbie doll nudity to it. I say Barbie doll nudity, even though there are some panels that very clearly have male nipples. But up to this point, this had not bothered Ko-fi until one day I posted a comic page that dared to have male nipples in it. And at the same time, I posted a shop listing for a product that had the word fuck in the title. Now, it was not like sexy times. It was like a series of stickers that said fuck off on it.
Right.
Like, this is my fuck off sword sort of thing. I thought it was funny. And a lot of people who bought those stickers at conventions also thought that it was funny. Ko-fi did not find it funny. And in fact, they took my page offline for 24 hours until I took that down.
Right.
Which...
I was actually thinking about that when I looked at the terms of service for Ko-fi. And I was like, so not safe for work art is allowed. You can mark your page as not safe for work art, but you are not actually allowed to post it.
Yeah.
You are allowed to be a not safe for work artist on Ko-fi. You cannot post your not safe for work art there. So what I had is a strange workaround where you can donate to me and get a Discord role where I post my smut in the Discord.
Yep.
Now, the disadvantage here is I have no way of knowing whether somebody is actually 18 or if they're just lying to get their way into this Discord. I really don't have any way to enforce that. I just sort of have to hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah. I feel like this is something that happened to Pro Jared at one point. Because, like, there was either a channel on Discord or there was some segment of Discord that he was running that was 18 plus, and there were people under the age of 18 that managed to get into that segment, and it got him into trouble. That's from my recollection of the story. It has been a minute since I looked at that story, but that was
I don't think I ever heard that one, so I'll take your word on it.
Yeah, this was a thing. This was a thing where, like, he didn't post online for like 2 months, and then 2 months later he posted a video talking about what happened, which is it's wild. Yeah, we're not going to get into that right now, but
it's not.
The workaround of posting naughty stuff on Discord and just fingers crossed that people who join the Discord are 18 plus is a workaround. And
yeah, it used to be, my security used to be that you had to have a credit card to get the stuff that I produce. And because Ko-fi can take money through PayPal, that's not as secure anymore. I had to actually add mods to my Discord, which wasn't a problem before, but now we have 3 mods. Like, we can't really prove that somebody is under 18, but if we suspect that they are, then they get the boot immediately. Yeah. Can't be doing with that.
Yeah. Good on you for having mods to keep an eye out for that. Because
it didn't used to need that, but desperate times.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I'd like to shout out Lauren, Ali, and Vera. They are my 3 mods, and I love their volunteer work. Thank you.
We love our Discord mods. There was one server that I'm a part of. Not going to name names. We can talk about it off stream. But there was a Discord that I was a part of where, like, we didn't have dedicated mods, but we had executive members who were serving the role of mods, and we definitely had to exercise executive force to get somebody off of the server because they were being a bad actor. Not fun.
We had one of those recently too.
ugh, I am sorry.
It's weird because that was back when I had the Patreon still running, and that person actually had to pay money to come and troll.
Okay.
Very odd.
Yeah. Honestly,
something awful behavior right there.
It takes a particular kind of brain rot for somebody to want to be a troll and pay money for, I guess, the quote unquote privilege of being a troll to somebody.
Yeah. Haven't seen that since my Goon days.
Yeah. Like, that is a special kind of brain rot. Like, if honestly, people listening, if you're the kind of person who would pay money to somebody just to troll them, I mean, there are better ways to spend that money. I'm sure the creator would appreciate the paycheck, but at the same time, you don't need to be a troll about it. I never really had the problem of trolls with my Patreon, but at the same time, I was never really like a quote unquote big creator. Like I said, the most I ever made on the platform was like $250 a month.
Right.
And that was when it peaked back in 2018. I feel like a lot of Patreon pages peaked in 2018 and then just...
Yeah, I don't know if that's something in their algorithm or their policies that changed, or like if they had a big exodus or something like that. But I also peaked in 2018 for reasons that I don't really understand. Like, I stopped doing like my monthly sketches because they took too much time.
Oh,
and that was a big dent. But like, I was still pretty consistent throughout 2018. I don't know why things suddenly started declining.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that as well. I remember there was a patron exodus there for a little while, right in that time frame, 2018, 2019, because I remember some of the like, because when patrons leave, they have the option to fill out an exit survey to tell you why it is that they're leaving, and usually the reason given is like financial situation has changed. That's the most common one that I saw in the exit surveys. There was one person who went full detailed about why they were leaving, and it was pretty memorable to me because he was like, I hate the way that Patreon treats their creators. I would rather support the creators on a platform that is not so actively malicious.
Points.
Yes.
For doing that. But like, you can help me with the money. I get the money either way.
Yeah, there are other ways to financially support a creator besides Patreon. At the same time, Patreon at the time was a pretty significant chunk of how I was able to pay for my groceries. Yeah.
And like that's one reason I decided to move into the LLC space was because with Patreon still going on the downside, on the decline.
Yeah.
I had to move I decided to like branch out into like merchandise and like paper goods, mail order stuff, shirts, stuff like that.
Sure.
Which I'd already kind of done on the side with my Ask the Werewolves project. But I decided to like make an online store to make an official thing, like mail out stuff. Like I still have my thermal printer right next to me.
Oh, wow.
Sitting on the shelf, not getting used.
Wow. You went real deep about that. Holy crap.
I did. I had a lot of stuff to sell. And like also LLCs have an easier time getting like business loans than individuals
do. Yep.
And it's like easier to handle your legal paperwork if you are an LLC because you can just stamp things through. You don't need to prove, yes, I'm a person and I also have a one-person business. LLCs just smooth that out a little bit.
Yes.
But ultimately it turned out to be like the volume just wasn't there. Like, I had like a formal LLC. It became easier to handle my money and my finances, but that didn't increase sales at all.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I just never figured out why sales dropped off and never came back. I think part of it might have been that because I was so busy, I wasn't working on my main project, Ask the Werewolves, which is the thing people signed up for.
That'll play a part.
That was probably a big part of it, slowing down on ATW too much. And the other part of it was that like, I just got really burnt out in 2019, 2020. I don't know about you. I think those were some bad years for everyone.
Honestly, 2019, at the end of 2019, that was when I had the thought, I'm going to stop doing so many conventions in 1 year.
Yeah.
And then 2020 rolled around and I was like,
well, that problem solved for you, wasn't it?
That solves my dilemma for me. It did throw a little bit of a wrench, a big wrench into plans because unfortunately conventions were a big chunk of my earnings through my LLC because I also filed an LLC way back in 2018. 5th year anniversary this year.
Good job.
Yeah, we made it to 5 years. Most LLCs do not last this long.
I didn't.
Yeah, so like, woo, kudos, we made it 5 years. At the time, I was able to pivot and work as a creative director at a startup. But the trade-off for that was that when working at this startup, I saw basically the conundrum that Patreon came to fairly early on in their career, which was, do we cater to our customer base or do we cater to the venture capitalists? You cannot do both.
You can't.
No, because the demands of venture capitalists are going to be very different from the demands of people who actively use your platform. And this was something that I'm not sure if this CEO who worked at this startup eventually understood that. I don't know if he did. I do feel like there is that very strong pivot to cater to venture capitalists because venture capitalists just have so much money. At the same time, crowdfunding has been shown to work.
Crowdfunding has been shown to work occasionally.
Yeah.
It's been consistent enough that people will do it and treat it as a real option, but like there's like my project isn't really crowdfundable. It has no set endpoint or schedule.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for every person.
Maybe it's just me. I'm just so used to, I'm also somebody who's run like 15 Kickstarters, 2 crowdfunders, and a couple of different Ko-fi campaigns. So like,
and congratulations, by the way. That's super impressive. It is. I'm really impressed that you do that. I'm thinking about one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason why, because you and I both worked on Less Than Secret, the cryptid anthology. There's a reason why Ben and Rainer approached me and they were like, can you be our crowdfunding manager for this campaign? And I was like, yes. There's a reason why they approached me and asked me about that, because up to that point, Rainer had not run any Kickstarters. Ben had run maybe 2. And at the time that they approached me, I had done like 13. So like, duh. I love Kickstarter campaigns and crowdfunding campaigns in general, just because it's just so easy to be like, I need X amount to make Y project happen. Can you help me do it? You can get these rewards in return. The tricky part is getting the math to work, but that's a whole different topic for a whole other day.
We're running into a lot of those on this stream, intersecting with a lot of issues for other days.
Oh yeah. It's content for days.
Oh, we love content.
Yeah, that's just how our brains work now. But Patreon Patreon-like models where you're trying to fund something month to month is a very different kind of reward system from doing a Kickstarter, because Kickstarters, some crowdfunders, not all crowdfunders, we'll get to that. And some Ko-fi campaigns, not all Ko-fi campaigns. A lot of crowdfunding projects are one and dones. You fund until you reach a certain goal. If you exceed that goal, even better. But you have a set deadline to meet that, and then you're done. And then it's a matter of like fulfilling on the promise that you set out to do. Right. Yeah. Patreon is different. And Patreon models where you're funding from month to month or project to project are very different, because there's that expectation of you're supporting this person's livelihood, I suppose. Like you're supporting their livelihood so that they can keep making the stuff that you like. Right.
Like you are a paid subscriber. It's not a wild idea.
No, it's not that wild. It feels
like it's so weird to me that like Patreon stumbled on a really excellent model for it. It's like host the content, take a cut, and don't touch it.
Right.
Keep it secure, keep it flowing, and don't touch it. Like don't mess with your 7% or whatever it was they took. And they just keep making it such an unpleasant experience to use. It's not like Patreon's not a destination website. People don't hang out on Patreon. It's a glorified mailing list.
It very much is. It's a landing page is what it is.
Right.
Yeah. Like when you said mailing list, it's a landing page because there are landing pages for mailing lists. There's a landing page for Patreon. to pledge and subscribe. That's about it.
It's like even my link tree is just it's just a list of sites you can find me on. Like there's sites that I go to. There's like sites that people find content and sites where people consume content. And in Web 2.0, 2.5, 7, whatever we're on.
Yeah.
That's just all the internet is now. And it kind of sucks. I don't like it.
I feel both retro old and like a rebel in that I still maintain a blog site. I have a separate blog, kelseydcrawford.com, link in the doobly-doo, shameless plug, but I still make like blog posts that are like, I'm going to such and such convention, or I just had a wild thought about this other thing that I would really like to make. And it feels wild to me that like I'm one of the few creators that's still actively doing that.
Yeah, blogs kind of had their time in the sun.
Yeah. I mean, technically speaking, that is correct. Like, blogs are not popular, but I still maintain one.
Yeah, Tumblr is a blogging thing in its own way, but it's more of a micro blog, I guess you'd call it.
It's a micro blog for super niche fandoms.
Right. And like, well, it used to be. Now it's shit post central, which is why it's fun again. But,
right.
But yeah,
I wish more people understood
you
that.
Can't. Tumblr's star has also kind of fallen in the past 5 years or so since the porn ban. Another thing that directly affected me. Fun. Woo.
Oh man, when that like bot came out for Tumblr that was like, hey, this is going to troll through posts and mark your stuff is not safe for work. It pinged one of my safe for work illustrations is not safe for work, and I'm like, how? Right. This figure
it still does that. It still pings my totally safe for work content sometimes as an adult, and I'm like, I don't even bother fighting the flags anymore because like, who cares?
Yeah, at this point, like, I think we all kind of know that Tumblr's not safe for work flagging system just doesn't work.
It doesn't, and it never really did. But like, no, still occasionally you can post tits and dicks on there, and the robot just won't find it because it's inefficient.
Exactly. Actually, this kind of segues into the main meat of the video that I would like to get to, which is the alternatives to Patreon that exist, the ones that we are currently using and the ones that are out there. And I would like to ask you, because you work in the 18 plus sphere of things, as to alternatives that maybe I don't know about.
All right. Actually, I did a lot of research when I quit, when I had to switch from Stripe after I was banned. And this might be relevant to people who have been considering Stripe. So when I got the axe from Stripe, they did a curious thing where, as part of their email, they suggested that I go to this other payment processor who's what was it called again? I didn't write it down. Hell. But I did actually like talk to them and like have a conversation with them. It's like, here, what's your volume? How many credit card transactions do you expect to do in a year? What plan would work best for you with our system? And it turns out that even specialized credit card processors, like for adult businesses, focused on adult businesses, cannot protect you from the payment from the credit card company's quote high risk merchant fees, which are extra fees that they have to put on. Well, they don't have to put on, but they do put on to all transactions handled by an adult business. And these can be up to $1,000 per card per year, which was not really tenable for me. Even if I took just Discover and Visa, that's $2,000 I'm never seeing again.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out either. So I started looking at like, what are the free to join websites? One of them is subscribestar.adult, which is different from normal Subscribestar, specifically for the 18 plus space. That seemed to work out okay, but it was like, they do have one thing that Patreon does not have, which is a spotlight feature. They regularly feature like undernoticed, underserved creators, which is I'm surprised Patreon never did that. It feels like a layup to do that, but they never did. I ended up not doing
that. Patreon, get on that shit.
Yeah, I ended up not going to Subscribestar.adult because like it just felt like far too similar to the thing I'd already done, and like I don't like I do participate in the 18 plus space. I don't think my stuff is competitive enough for Subscribestar adult. All that's like really high quality, really dedicated pornography.
Gotcha.
I just don't put out porn often enough or in high enough quality to really stick out there. which is weird. No, these are things you have to think about.
Yeah,
when you do it.
I'm chuckling, but it's also I'm just chuckling by your description of things.
I don't think I can compete in this space. No,
Yeah.
we're too horny over here. So what I ended up settling on. I ended up settling on Ko-fi, which, as we discussed, does not actually allow NSFW, but I can use it as a gate to my Discord, and and I have a Fur Affinity, and if you have a Fur Affinity account, you can see all my stuff anyway. It's not hard to find my smut these days. It's hard to get paid for it, but that's a different thing.
Honestly.
And commish.io, which is a commission taking website that does handle with Stripe, but because they're the ones handling the payments, I'm not the one directly getting paid. It's a little easier because it goes through this third party. Which I guess that ducks the problem. So far it has. Stripe had to do an identity check on me, and they still said yes. Even though I had just been kicked from them, so I guess it works for them fine.
The Stripe just is weird.
It's bizarre. I don't really know what the standard is.
I don't either.
There were a couple of Patreon alternatives that I did look at back in 2018-19.
Yeah.
When they were recently announced. There was Drip, first of all. You looked into Drip earlier, didn't you?
I did. I heard about it because Spike Trotman, aka Iron Spike on Twitter, leader of Iron Circus Comics, cool person, professional internet person. I'm pretty sure that they've been on the internet since it started.
Right. Former furry too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Would believe it.
Yeah.
She got a webcomic up on Drip, which is how I know that Drip exists. Because every once in a while, I'll see on her Twitter feed that she posted on the webcomic again, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a service that exists. And then I just completely forget about it again, like a goldfish.
Drip was originally advertised as a Patreon alternative back when it was an alpha. It looks like it's more turned into a MailChimp imitator now.
Oh, I really hope that they don't have the same functionalities as MailChimp, because I think I rambled about this in the live stream that I had with Ben a while back, but MailChimp, I do not recommend because they are so badly designed.
Yeah, I used MailChimp for a bit and they were very sloppy.
Yes.
I don't know I actually cannot find what Drip's policy on NSFW is, but I'm pretty sure because they integrate with Shopify and WooCommerce and Facebook that the answer is no.
Yeah. Or if they do that, it's wibbly wobbly, or
right.
It has to be tastefully censored, or
it is enforced when it has to be and ignored otherwise, which is not a good policy to have, as we've covered. It's too inconsistent.
Way too inconsistent. Yeah.
And the other one that I was going to talk about was Camaraderie.
Yes, can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, Camaraderie Co-op. I actually signed up for the mailing list on this because I was interested in it when it was first announced. Camaraderie is in alpha at the moment. It's COMRADERY.co. The advertised angle of it was that it would be a Patreon-like subscription payment service, but it's a worker cooperative where fees are cheaper, executive decisions are made with a democratic process, et cetera, et cetera. And the focus was on sustainability and not quick cash hypergrowth stuff.
Right. So not VC funding.
Right. Yeah. Now, the problem with this is that Camaraderie was an alpha for about 5 years.
Which is a while.
Yeah. And for a while, I did actually watch, I think, 2 of their seminars, talking about their business plan when they were when all they were was a mailing list. They did put out, I think, 2 videos about what their actual plan for profit and sustainability was. And here in the moments on their website, they have a rather impressive statement on anti-racism, justice, and inclusion. That's fine.
Okay.
But to get onto Camaraderie now, you need to have a what's the term? Conference call. Showing that you are a good fit for the co-op. There's a long application process where you need to have an onboarding call and become a creator after you get the approval of other creators, which seems like a very strange step to take.
It's so particular.
Yeah, so that never happened to me. I didn't know that was even a thing until I researched it for this video. So I have no idea whether their co-op is successful or profitable or anything like that. I do know that I completely forgot they existed until we had to do this, which tells you that their alpha phase is still not over, which tells me that they are still not a sustainable product yet.
Ooh,
so
yeah,
maybe join that if you're really curious, but I'm not.
Yeah, nah. A pitch like that where they pitch themselves as being democratically run.
It is weird to me that you advertise yourself as a democratically controlled company, but also have a strong vetting process for who gets to join your democracy. That's odd. That seems a little contradictory to me.
Yeah, that's interesting how particular that is.
I don't know how. I'd never actually tried to apply, and I don't think I will.
Yeah, at this point, I'm not sure that I'm going to either. It sounds like they have some particular ideas for who they would want to have join their democracy.
Yeah, it's worth also pointing out that they are still in alpha. They have no integrations yet. So if you have a Discord or like a Shopify store or a Big Cartel store, Camaraderie doesn't link to any of those.
Yeah, and that itself is an issue because so many things on the internet integrate now.
I used to have a Big Cartel store. It only took Stripe.
Yeah.
So once I lost my Stripe account, I could not operate the store at all.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually about to suggest, because Big Cartel was one of the things in my list of alternatives. But if for some reason you have your Stripe account suspended or banned, then Big Cartel is not going to work.
Yeah, there are like other payment processors like around the world, like Payoneer is based in Europe. But and like they're usually easier on adult creators in that jurisdiction. I thought about setting that up, but I decided like, no, the extra hassle's not worth it.
Yeah. I knew
the volume is just not here to merit trying this again.
Yeah. I knew an adult creator who he printed his comics with a printer based out of Germany. So yeah, totally get why, if you're making adult content, you would want to work more in the European sphere of things. It's understandable. The other thing about Big Cartel, though, that I did have a note of, if you do have Stripe and you manage to get it to work, the thing with Big Cartel is it requires a monthly subscription to do a subscription Patreon-like model.
Right. But it's like $10 a month. That's nothing.
Yeah. What I have noted is that that's the smallest like monthly subscription package is $10 a month. Keep that in mind. You can technically write that off as a business expense if you are operating as an LLC.
Yay.
But yeah, so tax pro tip there. But yeah, if you're trying to look for something that is little to no fees, maybe look at another alternative. There are other ones that I have listed here. One of them is Buy Me a Coffee.
I've seen that. Which is not the same as Ko-fi. Not
the same as Ko-fi. Ko-fi's pitch was that when they first started it was you could buy somebody a coffee on Ko-fi. And then they decided that their name was pronounced Ko-fi because they wanted it to rhyme with no fees.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, unusual justification, but okay. But Buy Me a Coffee is pretty straightforward. At least the name is straightforward. I've not seen too many creators use this, but it is able to integrate with particular web design platforms. So there is that working for it. So like if you have a website, you can incorporate Buy Me a Coffee into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they do not safe for work content, but I get the impression that Buy Me a Coffee operates more like a tip jar model rather than like a subscription-based model.
Like if you have to ask, does this let me do NSFW art? In almost every place, the going answer is no.
Yeah, realistically. Yeah. You find workarounds and you talk with people like Jade to figure out those workarounds.
Hi, I'm Jade. Ask me about porn.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to bring you on board. It was to bring that 18 plus angle and cover that base because I sure as shit wouldn't be able to.
Talk to your favorite sultry dog today about the issues affecting you.
Yes. That said, since we're talking about not safe for work stuff, I did talk about Kickstarter earlier, but there is an alternative to Kickstarter that could also work as an alternative to Patreon, which is Crowdfunder.
Right.
I first found out about
that's the one spelled that's spelled like crowdfund, no ER, right?
Correct. Yeah. It's crowdfund The letter R.
Crowdfunder.
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah. I found out about them because they sponsored last year's Small Press Expo. And they actually worked with me to help promote my first crowdfunding campaign on their platform. Which was
a lot of like indie board games go through Crowdfunder, I notice.
Interesting, because a lot of the projects.
I got into the board game scene recently, and a lot of my friends either follow Kickstarters or crowdfunders or what's the other one, Indiegogos.
Yep. First of all, thank you for joining in the scene. Now I finally have somebody to geek out about board games and TTRPG.
Oh, we not talked about this yet? Oh, fuck yeah! Oh, come on and join Tabletop Sundays. We're trying to put that together.
Oh yes, girl! Oh my God, let me jump on that.
Woo! We'll talk about this later. No, can't get distracted by meeples right now.
Oh my God, the meeples. Okay, I'm going to try to not get distracted and talk about Dragon Realm for a minute. So yeah, Indiegogo could also be an option, but I don't know if Indiegogo has the option to have like ongoing campaigns. I think they do.
I don't remember.
My cursory research was like, can enable ongoing campaigns, and I'm like, do they? I don't know if they do. I know that Crowdfunder does, which is one of the interesting things about them. Found this out because I've done 2 campaigns on that platform so far. And the interesting thing is that, yes, you can set a deadline for, I need X amount of money by this date to get this project to happen. The interesting thing is, once you are funded before you've met that deadline, the campaign technically keeps going past the deadline date. And I discovered this because, like, not to brag or anything, but both campaigns that I ran on Crowdfunder got funded within the first 30 minutes of launch.
Yay.
So, not to brag,
but kind of a big deal.
I'm kind of a big deal. No, I'm just rolling in that crowdfunding. Anyway, so yeah, no, because I managed to hit the goal so early, once the date came up, that was like, okay, campaign's running to, I'm trying to remember when I had Vanita and the Demon King's deadline by. I'm pretty sure that deadline was like February 10th or something like that. But like, okay, we're running Vanita and the Demon King up to February 10th. And then February 10th rolled around and Crowdfunder was like, we're going to keep on rolling because you hit your goal and we're going to see how much more funding you can raise. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
That's interesting. Well, I guess I would like more cash. Now that you mention it.
I would like more cash, but after a point, I decided to just end it because I was like, I just need to know how many like actual rewards I need to make so that I'm not like rolling out rewards on a rolling basis.
Yeah.
For that
a serious problem that a lot of Kickstarters have, or a lot of crowdfunding sites have, is that people try to keep meeting their stretch goals and adding more stretch goals, and that just adds more work.
Yes, it can be very easy to have your stretch goals not just add bloat, but have the stretch goals actually cost more than the base goal. And not just in like oh yes, we reached this much more funding. It's also like, oh gosh, it costs this much more to make this thing. Math, it's important to know.
Numbers.
Yes. But
what are birds? We just don't know.
What are birds? So yeah, Crowdfunder is interesting in that regard. Like the first and second campaigns that I ran, they went past their final days and just kept funding. Or like they stayed open to accept more funding if people wanted to pledge. I had to actually go into the system and tell the system, I want to end this campaign. And they were like, are you sure? You won't be able to take any more contributions if you close it. And I'm like, at this point, yes.
It's fine. We're good.
It's fine. But there is that option to just have a Crowdfunder page and have it operate almost like a Patreon page. Or like
where it just takes pledges indefinitely. Yeah,
where it can take pledges indefinitely. You can have a Crowdfunder set up to do that, which is interesting. There are other things about that platform that I also find interesting. The running theme of this particular episode, I could do an entire separate video about that.
Someone should write a book about this.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like one of the Discord servers I'm a part of, the amount of times that I've talked about Ko-fi somebody was like, you should really write a guide for this. And I'm like, I realistically should. Because like on that server, I just talked up Ko-fi to death. I mean, it works, but Ko-fi did give me that scare, which was why I just built my own alternative using Stripe as the payment software.
Would you like to tell how you did that?
So Stripe, when you go into the Stripe dashboard, there's a way that you can add products, and you can just go into Stripe and add products that you can have for sale. And one of the products that you can have available is a subscription to something. It can be anything. It can be something that requires shipping, or it can be something that you deliver digitally, in which case they just need your payment information and an email to send stuff to, which is really nice, honestly. And, you know, it's Stripe, so it's reasonably secure. It sounds more secure than Patreon's current security team, I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, Stripe was surprisingly easy to set up. The tricky bit is Stripe gives you the link to the page, and the page is where you buy the thing. So it's not necessarily a storefront, but it does give you links. So I built a page on my website that was like kelseydcrawford.com/subscribe. More information in the doobly-doo. And I put all of my payment links for my clubs on that page. And that was how I did it. There's probably a easier, snazzier way to do it, but that's how I chose to do it. Square, from what I've seen, because Square is another alternative where you can build a monthly subscription offering. That one, I tried figuring that out because I already use Square as a payment processor and an inventory system for selling at conventions.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I don't know very many people who don't use Square. There's maybe one artist that I know who uses only PayPal, and the PayPal card reader sucks dick.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
I use Square for when I go to conventions and sell things, but what I end up doing all the time is I'll download it for the convention and then remove it from my phone as soon as the convention is over. I was like, I don't want to do this again.
Yeah, it can take up space. I just leave it on my phone just because I use it as my inventory system, which means I also use it to keep track of stuff for my Ko-fi shop, because I have a shop through Ko-fi. So I use it to help keep track of my inventory through my Ko-fi shop. I just keep Square operational on my phone so that it's easier for me to like track how much of what things I have. I have not tried the subscription model on Square yet. It is apparently a thing that you can set up, but I don't know how you do it.
I don't think I ever have to. That might have been added recently after I stopped using it.
Yeah.
After convention time came to a screeching halt.
Yeah, there is that too.
Might actually return to cons this year. We're planning to.
Oof,
not for selling, just for showing up.
Oh, no, totally. There's like one convention that I reserve as like, that is my vacation convention. I only go there to be an attendee. I do not try to set up shop to sell stuff there.
Is that Youmacon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my vacation convention. And honestly, from what I've heard, it sounds like a major pain in the ass to try to get into Artist Alley at that show. So I don't even bother.
Yeah, but convention's also another thing we talk about all day.
Oh yeah, I've done several streams in the past about conventions, and we could probably just talk for days.
It's almost like a mutual friend of ours has a whole webcomic about wearing costumes at conventions and the pain that comes from costumes. Some kind of costumed pain.
I have his link on a banner on the side over here. I can hide.
Who? I don't know what you're talking about. Who could it be?
I think it's BWH Comics.
Is it?
That's who it was. Yeah, I think his name is Ben. We love you, Ben.
We love you, Ben.
I do have other banners, and we'll get to those later. But I had to bring it up. I had to bring up Ben's because we were talking about him. Oh yeah. Looking at the list of alternatives, if there's one thing that I could recommend not using, This is in the same vein as like, hey, don't use MailChimp. And also don't use TinyLetter because TinyLetter is a subsidiary of MailChimp.
I've never even heard of TinyLetter.
Yeah, not many people have. Don't use TinyLetter. It is a subsidiary of MailChimp, so that means it inherits all of its faults.
Okay. I used MailChimp for a bit, mostly because I wanted to have a mailing list in case Patreon ate dirt.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah.
But like it didn't really add anything because like it didn't really add anything to my like internet presence that I didn't already do. It was just another thing that had to be pumped out every couple of weeks. Probably I didn't really see any like traffic improvement with MailChimp.
Yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to talk to about that because like I run a weekly email newsletter and like the email newsletter is how I get the majority of any pledges on crowdfunding campaigns that I run.
Right.
Yeah. So, but that running theme for this episode, that's a topic for another video.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just talking about email newsletters. Yeah. But in that same vein of like, don't use MailChimp and don't use TinyLetter. Do not use Memberful. Reason for that.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah. Do not use Memberful. They are a Patreon subsidiary.
Huh.
Yeah. I don't know if Memberful is still operational, but I had a research document going, and that was one of the links that popped up in the research document. So I just wanted to take a second to mention that.
Yeah, the website is still up at first glance.
Okay. Yeah, but I would not recommend using them.
I'm gonna take a slight side detour here. When we look up like Memberful, Drip, MailChimp, all websites look the same now. It's a white field with some serif font and some like product photos that just scrolls down forever.
Yeah.
And always has that same like quick to make advertisement paper cutout style.
Yeah.
Photos of people smiling in cities, sweaters and laptops. Pens and paper.
Yeah.
Look at look at all the other things we work in.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the icons of like stuff that you might recognize, might not.
Yeah. The equivalent of stock footage of people in the office.
God, it goes, God, I hate how bland everything looks now.
Yeah. Now you're making me think that I need to do a redesign of not only my website, but the website for Fantasyville Productions, because they're not paper cutout white, but I feel like close enough that I'm like, I should make this a little more spicy.
Yeah. It sucks. I was really proud of the job that I did on the giant LLC like homepage.
Your website was amazing when it was up.
It was, and now I just switched it into a holdover page because that company technically won't exist in another couple of weeks. So yeah.
No, that website was chef's kiss.
I was really proud of that one, but like it wasn't. God, It took forever to get that to look good on mobile too.
Yeah, I remember when you were posting links and being like, "Hey, can you test this on mobile and tell me how it looks?"
Yeah, it took a long time, but I got it to work. Maybe I'll repurpose it for something. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, I would.
Yeah. AskTheWerewolves.com still looks good though. I'm still proud of that.
Yeah. If it's there, don't let that code go.
Why don't we direct the audience to that in the private chat? Just a second.
Sure.
Validate me. I feel bad.
Here, I will validate you.
Yay.
We're gonna copy that. We're taking a second to make a banner, folks. Here we are. AskTheWerewolves.com with the snazzy website design.
Yeah, issue 6 is on my desktop right now. Honest, I'm still working on it.
Yes,
I just get distracted and strung out by all the things that happen to me.
Honestly, this is a good way to like shout out some of the stuff that you do. So, yeah, I don't mind giving you more shout outs. I mean, who do you take me for? Would you
like to plug anything that you've been doing lately?
Oh, that I've been doing?
Yeah, why don't we put a banner up for something you made?
Sure. I've actually been working on a new webcomic, Vanita and the Demon King.
I have seen.
Yes. I actually did a crowdfunder campaign to help me fund the production of the first few pages of the comic and make a little bit of merch for some witchy themed things that I had in mind. They're not like directly related to Vanita and the Demon King, but I was just like, why not have a witch in training pin? That sounds cute.
Right.
Yeah. So stuff like that was in the crowdfunder. But Vanita and the Demon King is a sequel to another webcomic that I did. The Case of the Wendigo takes place.
Oh, that one's from a while ago.
Yeah. The Case of the Wendigo was back in like 2016, 2017, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while, but like when I worked on the script for Vanita and the Demon King, the characters from The Case of the Wendigo popped up, and I'm like, oh, it's this story. Okay. But yeah, the premise of Vanita and the Demon King is that 1,000 years ago, there was a Demon King who threatened humanity. There was a Demon King who threatened humanity, and the lone hero who stood up to the Demon King, the hero of man, was Richard. And Richard punched the Demon King so hard that the Demon King vanished.
And then he turned into a pickle. Funniest shit I've ever seen.
Cut to 1,000 years later. Vanita is jogging through the park, and she comes across the Demon King passed out in the bushes, bruised and beaten. And she's like, what? And then Demon King gets back up, and Demon King is like, I'm not done yet, Richard. And Vanita's like, oh no, I'm dealing with a rabid cosplayer.
Oh dear.
And it's slice of life magical shenanigans where Demon King passes out on the couch of a trans woman, and they both have to learn to be roommates.
I love it. I love it already. I haven't actually read any of it yet. I really want to.
that is the vibe I'm getting from so many people after telling the pitch, and I'm so glad it resonates. So yeah, that'll be coming pretty soon. When it's coming out, I will have I reserved the domain name for it already, but I will be announcing it further at fantasyvilleproductions.com. Yes, that's actually a good place to go to find any currently running crowdfunding campaigns that I am a part of or that I am currently running, which includes Vanita and the Demon King, because I'll be posting updates about how reward fulfillment is going for that project at that website. There's also a whole bunch of other webcomics that I've done. Like, I have one active
Oh, there's
one.
a fuck ton. Kelsey's made so many comics.
I have made so many comics, but like,
I'm so jealous of Kelsey. Kelsey makes comics so fast, and here I am just like, eh. But I want to make playing cards this month.
Oh my god, I would love to see that.
Oh, have I not shown you those? I'll show you those.
No,
later.
You're gonna have to show me those. Oh my gosh, yes, okay. Please.
But if you wanna find the stuff that I'm doing, yes. I'm actually kind of between websites at the moment, but like between names, I guess. I switched over to Linktree is just a list of the stuff I do now. Now I am Cups of Jade.
Yeah.
I used to be Giant in a lot of places, but since that company is shuttering, I'm probably going to switch to something else. Probably just this, if we're honest.
Honestly, Cups of Jade is snazzy AF.
Yay.
But yeah, there you go. Check out Jade's stuff. Like, I freaking love your art, madam, I have to say.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Like, I really need to catch up on Ask the Werewolves. I was reading El Endon pretty actively when that was updating regularly, but I know that you have that on hiatus.
Yeah, it might actually be permanent. I posted on co-host a while ago that I might actually not have 12 more chapters of El Endon in me. I'd really like to, but it's 10 years old this year and nowhere close to being finished, so there's a very real possibility that it never happens.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to square with those thoughts, but if I ever find time, I'll do it again. If I ever find motivation, I'll do it again. I get that, though. Like, there are some comic scripts that I have that, like, I write it, and then I'm like, I really can't continue this. Yeah.
Or
like it's not just that like it's 10 years ago, but like so much happened in those 10 years that I am definitely not the same person I was when I started writing this story. And I'm not sure if I can get that mindset like back in my head.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. Because like I wrote Ellen Dawn when I was like a really strung out college student, and I did not like myself back then or the life I lived back then.
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to remember those things.
You know, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fair.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Right now, mostly what I'm doing is commission work and working on Ask the Werewolves when I have free time between other stuff I'm doing, other stuff that distracts me.
Yeah, I still need to catch up on Ask the Werewolves. I remember reading the first few chapters and finding it absolutely delightful.
Yeah, you're probably issue 6 is what I'm doing now, and issue 7 is fully scripted and will be the last one. I also want to get that project to a point where I can like put it down and call it finished.
Yeah, no, I get that. Because, like, you know, you mentioned that I have like a ton of webcomics. The thing about the ton of webcomics I've done is that a lot of them are finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't consistently like update them. The only ones that I have consistently updating are The Legend of Jamie Roberts, and I'm launching Vanita and the Demon King. And there's one other, New Punk Signal, which is right now Ko-fi exclusive, but I don't hype that one up a whole bunch because it's technically a sequel series to Validation, and Validation is in a wibbly wobbly place online right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I remember that whole thing.
Yeah. The main website for it is gone, but it's being reposted in 2 different places, and both of those places are on entirely separate timelines. So, like, yeah, because like the Webtoons version is like at the very beginning, and then the Instagram version is like partway through arc 2. So yeah, it's a little messy. Working on fixing that.
Yeah. But no, I do a lot of things these days. Pretty much all furry. there's not really getting around this anymore. Look at me.
I mean, there's a reason that the thumbnail is the way that it is.
There is.
Yeah.
Times change.
Yeah, but you know, I'm not judging. Why do you think I'm having you like on the stream?
I mean, the last time I was on a big stream with you, just had my snoot in the middle of the screen like Mega Man the whole time, just staring like directly at the viewer.
Like a Mega Man boss.
do 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 like that.
Yep. The Q Mega Man victory music. Oh, well, goodness. Oh, there was one other note. I almost forgot about this, but I'll mention it in a pinned comment down below. We'll take care of that as it comes up. But
what did we miss? What was it?
Liberapay. I almost didn't bring it up because that was an open source one.
I do know what that is, but I've never used it, so I can't give you any info on it.
Yeah, I've never used it, and I can't give any info on it either.
Yeah.
But that covers all of the things on my list over here.
We did mention maybe bringing in other people for like additional perspectives later on, maybe in another podcast. But insofar as that, I think that's all I have to say for today. I'm officially off Patreon for the foreseeable future and doing only commissions and Ko-fi now.
Yeah, and you can find all of those links through Jade's link tree, links on the screen. There will also be links down in the YouTube doobly-doo. Well, thank you so much for joining me in today's video.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to have you and to chat with you always.
No.
And if any of y'all listening would like to check out any of my things, all of my links will be at kelseydcrawford.com. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. You are awesome.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Bye.